This meeting will now come to order. The clerk will please call the roll.
Mayor Garland.
Here.
Councilmember Binsbacher.
Here.
Councilmember Patena.
Here.
Councilmember Finn.
Here.
I apologize. Vice Mayor Edwards.
Here.
You're here too.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hunt.
Here.
Councilmember Leone. Here. Council Liaison Bowden.
Here.
And Council Liaison Camacho.
Here.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Peoria City Council special meeting of December 1st, 2015. The consent agenda consists of one item, and that is authorization to hold an executive session. I have received no requests to remove anything. So can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please vote. Consent agenda passes unanimously, and we will now adjourn to executive session.
piece of steel. Said this hammer's gonna be the death of me. This hammer's gonna be the death of me. Hammer's gonna be the death of me. Hammer's gonna be the death of me. John Henry said to his captain, now a man ain't nothing but a man. Before I let your steel drill bring me down, I will die with that hammer in my. I'll die with that hammer in my hand. I'll die with that hammer in my hand. I'll die with that hammer in my hand. John Henry said to his shaker, now shaker, why don't you sing? I'm shaking 12 pounds from my hip on down. Now don't you hear that cold steel ring? 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 Said, give me a cool drink of water before I die. Give me a cool drink of water before I die. Give me a cool drink of water before I die. Give me a cool drink of water before I die. John Henry went down that railroad track with a 12-pounder hammer never came back because he laid down his hammer and he laid down his hammer and he laid down his hammer and he died. He laid down his hammer and he died. I'm going where John Henry fell dead. I'm going where John Henry fell dead. I'm going where John Henry fell dead. I'm going where John Henry fell dead.
This meeting will now come to order. Clerk will please call the roll.
Mayor Carlett.
Here.
Vice Mayor Edwards.
Here.
Councilmember Binsbacher. Here. Councilmember Patena.
Here.
Councilmember Finn.
Here.
Councilmember Hunt.
Here.
Councilmember Leone.
Here.
Council Liaison Bowden.
Here.
And Council Liaison Camacho.
Here.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Peoria City Council special meeting of December 1st, 2015. We have one item on the study session agenda tonight, and that is proposed near-term transit service enhancements. Mr.
Indeed.
Swenson.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor Carlett and council members. It is just the one item this evening, but an important item, and it has to do with bus service in the city. Not something that's on your agenda frequently, but it is something that we work on continuously to try to make sure that we're positioning Peoria to receive improved transit service. And as you know, it's a complicated intergovernmental regime in terms of how public transit is apportioned and funded and decided upon in the region. And each community has to work hard to make sure that they get the best service possible for their constituents. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about some of the planning that's underway and ideas for improving and strategies for improving transit. So I'll turn it over to Bill Mattingly, our Public Works and Utilities Director. Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Swenson. Mayor and Council, pleased to be here before you this evening to talk about transit services. Before I get started, I'd like to do some introductions. To my right is Stuart Kent. He's our Deputy Public Works Director. And to his right is Alicia Becker, and she's a project manager for Valley Metro, and she and her agency has been working very closely with us on preparing these plans that I'll be talking about here this evening. So, staff has been working with Valley Metro for about a year and a half on a couple of different programs. One we're going to talk about here is the proposal to extend bus service on 83rd Avenue from where it currently terminates in Phoenix at Camelback, and we would extend that up to Bell Road. But we're also looking at the feasibility and costs to do a circulator, which would be a local, smaller bus that would serve a route that gets into further north in Peoria from 83rd and Bell that would get as far north as Happy Valley and Lake Pleasant Parkway and then come back south. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. A separate but parallel project that we've been working on with Valley Metro are in fact two projects. One is a park and ride lot and a transit center. Those are two projects in the regional transportation plan, but we're looking at co-locating those at the same site. So we're kind of looking at it as a single project. So I'll get into that in a little bit here. So what I'll start out with is talking about what our current services are, what our proposals are for extending bus service, both the fixed route, the 83rd Avenue route, and the circulator route. And then I'll briefly talk about the Park and Ride and Transit Center, and then we'll talk about how these services could be funded. By way of background, transit service is delivered in the Valley through the regional system. Valley Metro operates that system. Phoenix operates some of the routes, but it is primarily a regional system. In Peoria, we also have our local Dial-A-Ride. Because we have very few fixed routes within Peoria, our Dial-A-Ride serves citywide. So that's a service that we have that supplements those regional services. And the connection, and the key connection, is to make these services work together so that you can get people from Dial-A-Ride to the regional system. And any routes that we have within Peoria, we want to connect to the regional system to make it as seamless as possible. Our key stakeholders in this process are our partners across the Valley in the form of MAG. And MAG, generally, role is to administer federal grant processes and deal with the federal dollars, and they're also engaged in the planning of new routes and services. Valley Metro has kind of a parallel role. They also plan and help us to plan for these routes, but they also are responsible for operating the bus routes, and they use contractors such as Veola and Total Transit to deliver bus services throughout the Valley. The major sources of funding for transit in the Valley is Prop 400, and I'll keep referring to Proposition 400, shorthand Prop 400, which was the regional transportation sales tax that was passed in 2004, and that tax sunsets in 2026. And in that sales tax, there were a number of programs, whether they were arterial routes, whether they were freeways such as 303 in Peoria, and a variety of transit projects throughout the valley that are listed in their plan. There is also complementary to the Prop 400 funding federal dollars. So there are federal transportation authority dollars that help to support these programs as well. In addition, we have the City of Peoria Transportation Sales Tax. Now, this is our local transportation sales tax that was passed in 2005, and that transportation sales tax has been used for a variety of purposes, both for roadways and some of the money has been earmarked for transit, and that's one of the funding sources we'll be talking about here. By way of roadways, just for reference, the Happy Valley Parkway was completed using our local transportation sales tax. We did a variety and plan to do a variety of intersection improvements on Thunderbird Road at 91st Avenue, Thunderbird 83rd Avenue, Thunderbird 75th, Cactus and 75th, Peoria and 75th. They're all the kinds of projects we're talking about for intersection improvements, which would improve traffic flow through those various areas. The Prop 400, our local transportation sales tax also supplements the HURF, the Highway User Revenue Fund, which is the gas tax that provides for our pavement management program, our pavement rehabilitation program. So our local transportation sales tax supplements that program to some extent. We use that tax also for certain one-time funds as the funds are available. One-time projects as those funds are available. As I said earlier, our transportation sales tax also supports transit. In our case, it also supports a portion of our dial-a-ride. It, in fact, is the primary source for our dial-a-ride service. We had prior funding that was lottery funding. They refer to that as LTAF. There's LTAF 1 and LTAF 2. And some of the council may recall that during the downturn, the legislature took the LTAF 1 dollars away, and with that, they took away a substantial amount of the funding that we had previously used for dial-a-ride, and we've been supporting that with our local transportation sales tax subsequently to that. But there are still dollars available within that fund to support new transit services. So I'm going to describe what I call fixed route. Fixed routes are the large buses, the arterial route buses, and these are the services that are more Peoria-centric. Now, keep in mind that each of these red lines connect to the regional system to the south and to the east, so to Phoenix and to Glendale. The Peoria route starts at 105th Avenue, where Boswell Hospital is, and it runs all the way to the east to the Sunny Slope Transit Center. The Thunderbird route, which just started last year, again links up with the Peoria route at 105th Avenue near Boswell and continues east to the Paradise Valley Transit Center. The Grand Avenue Limited is a route that is, limited is probably a good name for it. It starts in Peoria, goes to downtown. It has 2 trips in the AM to downtown, 2 trips from Phoenix to Peoria in the PM. So it is an opportunity for folks to get to downtown Phoenix, but it is a very limited in terms of service route. So what are we proposing? We're proposing to implement a north-south route in Peoria, and 83rd Avenue is a route that makes a lot of sense. This route would start at Bell Road and extend south all the way to the Desert Sky Transit Center. So it goes all the way down to I-10, in effect. So it's a key route north-south for Peoria, and it also helps to expand transportation in the entire West Valley. It hits a number of key destinations within the city of Peoria, including Pioneer Park, this City Hall complex, Old Town, the Center for Performing Arts, Peoria High School, Trine University, P83, and the Peoria Sports Complex. So it's a good route as a good next route. So in terms of costs, the initial capital cost is $2.8 million, and that's to buy 5 buses. The 5 buses would be regionally funded, MAG would purchase those along with about 100 other buses that they're planning to buy to expand or replace old buses in the system. You see an illustration of what these buses look like. You see these on the street all the time. Losing my thought there. So the cost for the buses would be funded regionally, and then the city of Peoria would be responsible for operating costs, which are $1.1 million a year. We would start this route on the proposal that Peoria would fund it. We would subsequently seek regional funding and continue to work with our partners to get the region to take over the cost of this route. There's no guarantee that that will happen, but it's part of our focused plan to work with the region to get them to take this route over as a regional route so that we can free those monies up for other purposes, perhaps for our own circulator route. It takes 24 months to buy a bus. This is where I kind of lost my thought a minute ago. 18 to 24 months to buy a bus. And so we would not be able to implement this service until the fall of 2017 or the spring of 2018. We have already indicated as a staff that we are very interested in being part of those new bus purchases. With later discussion and input from council, we can give further direction to the MAG that we do indeed want to buy these buses, and we are committed to go ahead and starting this service. Another route that we talked about is a North Circulator route, and this route that you see here would be locally funded. Circulators are entirely locally funded. They are in use across the valley, and they are smaller buses, and I'll show you an illustration of those shortly. This one would start where the 83rd Avenue route ends at 83rd and Bell, and would extend north to the north part of Peoria. This illustration shows it on 83rd Avenue to Lake Pleasant Parkway, to Happy Valley Road, across Happy Valley, down 83rd, back to the point of origin. You would run buses, 2 buses each direction at 30-minute intervals, and I'll talk about the purchase of the buses here in a second. So this is a schematic of what that service could look like. That may not be exactly this route. We may decide that later on. It's not something we need to determine at this point in time, but we wanted to get an order of cost to implement this service, and this is the route that we selected to make that determination. So in this case, these buses are smaller. Here's an illustration of what those look like. These can be locally branded or themed. We can make them look like anything we want them to look like. Other cities have done different things. Glendale has what they call a Glendale Urban Shuttle, or GUS. Avondale has a circulator they call Zoom. Tempe has a number of buses that they call Orbit. So we can be as creative as we want to be in terms of how we want to label these buses. So again, we will look to buy 5 buses, and the cost to buy those is $890,000 in today's dollars, and the operating costs would be $674,000 a year, and again, that would be Peoria's costs. I'm going to transition from talking about buses to facilities, and the facilities are talking about, or that other piece, and that's the Park and Ride Transit Center. And with the implementation of an 83rd Avenue route, we would have service on Grand Avenue, 83rd Avenue, and Peoria Avenue. So we would have 3 bus routes coming together at one location. And a very logical location for that center would be along Grand Avenue, near Peoria, 83rd Avenue, in just north of the Old Town area. This shows that location. It's across the street from Old Town Peoria, across from Azuna Park, and to the upper right-hand portion of the photo is Trailer Supply, so that's the new trailer place that's across there. This would initially be a park and ride facility. We would expand it as necessary and grow it into a transit facility. That's kind of what we anticipate we would do. The important thing about this is it's not just adjacent to Grand Avenue, but the railroad there, and that gives us opportunities for future commuter rail service. That service is 10 to 20 years in the future, but if you're going to put a stake in the ground, you want to buy real estate, this is the place to do it, next to the railroad. So as I indicated, we believe that this might be implemented in phases. We have been working with Valley Metro on a study. We'll conclude that study early spring of next year, so the February, March timeframe, we will conclude that study. We'll identify the site and then move forward with the acquisition of that site, depending on consensus around that site. We do have 2 park and ride lots in our Old Town area. Those lots would remain. They are very important for parking in the Old Town area, for the community theater, and for other businesses in the downtown area. So we would retain those lots. We wouldn't get rid of them. They would be ours to use as we see fit. The future park and ride will have covered parking. It'll be landscaped, and it'll have shaded areas. And Mayor Carlett, this would be similar to the one at Happy Valley Road and I-17. This has regional funding. The regional funding that's been identified in the transit plan is $6.55 million. Now, the regional funding is a combination between federal funding and the Prop 400 funding. So the construction, the land acquisition would all be paid for regionally, but at its completion, Peoria would be responsible to operate and maintain the park and ride lot. The second phase we would anticipate on the same property would be a transit center. A transit center is really a place for transferring from one bus to another, or ultimately transferring from buses to another mode of transportation, in this example, commuter rail. This has $2.55 million in regional funding, again, federal dollars and Prop 400 dollars. And again, at the conclusion of this, the city of Peoria would be responsible to operate and maintain this facility. So what staff is looking for today is to seek council consensus to move forward on, first, the implementation of the 83rd Avenue route. We would explore and continue to explore those opportunities to extend that 83rd Avenue route with a circulator. That could be with other funds that we identify, or it could be with the replacement of regional dollars for the 83rd Avenue route, freeing up Peoria dollars to pay for that circulator. Our next steps would include working with Valley Metro for the planning for the Park and Ride Transit Center as we described. And what we would try to do is outline our strategy and be consistent in our outline of our strategy to implement the 83rd Avenue route first, work on the circulator route in parallel with that. At the same time, we're working on a park and ride and a transit center, which are 2 separate projects that would ideally come together at the same time. In other words, the 83rd Avenue route is operating and the park and ride lot is available at the time that that route begins. That's what I have in terms of a presentation. If there are any questions, I'd be pleased to take them.
Okay, Council, Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Bill, first off, I want to thank you and Stuart for your tireless work, because I sit on the Valley Metro Board, and I know that you guys are on top of it every step of the way, making sure that Peoria has a stake at the table, and I know that you guys have done a phenomenal job. Could you go back to the rendering of the route on 83rd Avenue and maybe explain to everybody what it's going to take as far as inlets on 83rd Avenue? Do we already have some of those areas in place, so there's minimal construction going forward when we actually get a bus route on 83rd Avenue?
Vice Mayor Edwards, I'll do that. You have bus turnouts. Some of them are already in place. Yeah. You can do a bus route without actually having those turnouts, and in fact, on Peoria Avenue and Thunderbird Road, we don't have bus turnouts for the most part. We do have bus stops, and you want bus shelters, and you want the proper number of bus shelters at key locations. We do have some new bus turnouts that we've been installing. When we did Pioneer Park, we put in bus turnouts there, and as we continue to do improvements on our major arterials, and 83rd Avenue in particular, we want to install those bus turnouts. One opportunity might be as we look at implementing a park and ride lot, for example, and we had a $6.5 million budget for that. If that actual cost was less than that, we would seek to reprogram some of those dollars to help us build bus turnouts and perhaps even some enhanced transit bus shelters, something that's a little more fancy than than the ones we have at most locations. So you would do perhaps a themed location in the Old Town area and maybe a themed location at P83, and then you'd have the normal bus shelters throughout the route itself. So the answer is there are some bus turnouts that we're recently installed. We don't need them necessarily to commence the service. They're ideal for delivering
I'm
the
just
service.
saying that you obviously are thinking ahead as you're doing your road designs, which is critical as you're moving forward. You're keeping in mind that you want to have a bus route there, so you guys are making those decisions and budgeting for them so that we don't have to go back a year from now and say, now we need additional money to put in a turnout for bus stops. So that's what is commendable. What you also failed to mention is that Glendale is putting a regional transit center at Arrowhead Mall. And so, this will tie into that as well. So now not only will we have a regional transit center down south, but Glendale's going to have one, which will take you even more destinations that currently aren't there.
That's correct. When you get to Bell Road, you're at that Glendale Transit Center.
Yeah.
So when I said Bell Road, literally we would go to that transit center.
Absolutely. So, it just opens up a world of opportunities. And as far as the circulator, I know in talking with residents for a number of years, that seems to be the biggest sore spot is that there's a lot of people that want to come down to P83, down to Old Town, just don't have the means to get there. And I think by having that commuter circular opens up just a world of opportunity for all of the residents of Peoria. So I want to thank you and your staff for keeping Peoria in play here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Patena?
Thank you, Mayor. Bill, the original bus route on 83rd Avenue is going to go from approximately I-10 to Bell Road, and then the circulator is going to go from Bell Road to around Happy Valley and then back down. Are those going to be simultaneously started together, or is one going to follow the other, or how's it going to work?
Councilor Patena, the plan would be to do the 83rd Avenue fixed route stopping at Bell or the Transit Center, as the Vice Mayor alluded to, the Arrowhead Transit Center, and then look to see where we could get the funding for the circulator. If we could identify the funding early for the circulator, then there would be an opportunity perhaps to do those more simultaneously. The more likely scenario, I would think, is that you start the 83rd Avenue route, you get it to Arrowhead Town Center. When you find that the region will take over the funding for the 83rd Avenue route, then Peoria will have the funding through its transportation sales tax to fund that circulator.
Okay.
But there, again, that's not the only opportunity, but that's the one that's most apparent to us now.
Okay. My second question is, have the LTAF funds been reinstated or not yet?
The LTAF 1 funds have not been reinstated, and we don't anticipate those coming back. They also swept LTAF 2, but with a lot of hard work with other cities, the legislature had that overturned, and they had to reinstate those. So those are there, and we see those as long-term funding, but the LTAF 1 is not likely to come back.
Okay. Is there any, I heard a long time ago the price of running a bus route 1 mile. Any idea the cost of that to run a bus route just 1 mile?
Stuart, you want to take that?
Sure. Mayor, Councilmember Patena, it depends. Valley Metro's cost and Phoenix a little bit, but it's in the range of $100,000 a mile. That's separate from the capital cost, just the annual operating cost. So this route we're talking about for Peoria would be a little over 9 miles. And so that's how we're getting to that roughly $1.1 million cost to operate it on an annual basis.
Councilmember Finn?
Thank you. 2 questions. You mentioned how many times the circulator was going to go around. I think you said every 30 minutes. Is that correct?
Yes, we're looking at 30-minute frequencies. That's what we did on both the arterial routes, the 83rd Avenue routes, and the circulator. We anticipated that frequency.
So the 83rd is going to be every 30 minutes as well?
As it would be, yes. And that would be identical to the services on Peoria, Thunderbird, and the current 83rd Avenue route.
Okay, that answers question number 1. Thank you. And then the demand for that circulator route, how did you go about assessing that demand? How do you know that there's actually a demand that will be using that at 30-minute increments?
Stuart, you want to try and take that one?
Sure, absolutely. Mayor, Councilmember Finn, the circulator numbers are a little harder. The report talks about sort of an estimated boardings per mile, and if I'm remembering right, I want to say it's 0.8, 1.3. I think it's 1.3 boardings per mile, which is a measure of how many people get on and off per mile throughout the entire operating day. Again, I think as development continues through the north area of the city, those numbers would only increase. And again, as we asked Valley Metro and Alicia and her staff to work through it, it's sort of a snapshot in time. We didn't project, well, what will those numbers be in 2025 or anything like that. To provide some context, the numbers for the 83rd Avenue route are much higher, more like 1.7, 1.8. So it would be a very strong route. And again, as Bill alluded to, it really runs through the spine of the city. And it really becomes that connection point for so many other routes that run east-west to take that 83rd Avenue route.
Okay, so 1.8 per mile, but how did you go about making that? Is that just based on population, or how?
I'm sorry, I didn't hit it correctly, Mayor.
I probably didn't ask it correctly.
No, you were fine, Councilmember Finn. There are a number of factors that take into account. Valley Metro looks at not only the number of households that have one car or no car. They look at overall socioeconomic status of the area. They look at other ridership across the valley in similar routes. So they may be looking at routes in Phoenix or Glendale areas that are similarly populated. You're looking at multifamily housing, employment centers. All those sort of factors are figured into what the estimated boardings per mile would equate to.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I've got another question with regards to the circulator. This is something that's very near and dear to my heart because we have a lot of people in the northern part of the city who would like to participate in things that are in the central or southern part of the city. And so they would use that not necessarily for connecting with other bus service, but having that as a destination. So what would we be able to put in place for that last mile or that last half mile? They would get off the bus and then go to P83 or get off the bus and go to the theater in downtown. Do you understand my question?
I think I do.
Go ahead.
Mayor, if I understand your question, if you're essentially saying getting from the north end of the mall to P83 proper, what would that cost be? Is that why
I'm talking about when they get off the bus,
right?
And they still need to get to the sports complex. Mm-hmm. So we're at the Park and Ride, the Arrowhead Park and Ride. I understand. Then they need to go another half mile or a mile. Mm-hmm. So what is the method that you're planning to have for the last mile?
So again, we're talking about the circulator that gets you
Exactly.
to the transit center.
Circulator.
That would be, we can do it a number of different ways. One would be to transfer from the circulator to the 83rd Avenue route, which has a number of bus stops all along 83rd Avenue. Getting back to the Vice Mayor's question, we'll have bus stops all along the route, just as we do on Thunderbird and on Peoria. Alternatively, we could determine to take the circulator down to the sports complex itself and avoid the transfer, if you would.
Okay, and so the circulator is going to have the ability for us to be flexible and changeable based on events and spring training, if you will, other things that are going to occur in the city of Peoria. It's our
Mayor,
bus.
we can design it any way we choose. What you are really designing, though, is a normal frequency of service. So again, you're like 30-minute frequency on fixed number of days. If we thought that we wanted to do something special for special events, we could design those services. If we thought that there was a peak season, for example, the holiday season, or if we thought that the spring training was a higher demand, we could modify that service or enhance that service to do that. It's all locally funded. We can design it to suit us.
Good. That's great. That's great to hear. That makes it so much more valuable for our residents. Thank you. Council, any further questions or comments? Ms. Hunt.
Well, obviously, this really affects the southern area of Peoria as well as linking it to the north. And I do want to say thank you. And it's time that the west part of the valley started getting some attention from MAG and from other sources. So you guys fight the good fight. And I think having two of our people on those councils will really help as well. So this is amazing. Very happy about it.
Thank you. Appreciate
So,
your
Mayor,
presentation.
if you agree that we're going to move forward with this 83rd Avenue route as quickly as possible, again, we'll move forward with the Park and Ride, complete that study, bring that back to you. And so the next thing you should be seeing from us will be the Park and Ride, fixing on the location, and then laying out a plan to acquire property and build a Park and Ride.
I'm seeing consensus here.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Then we are adjourned until our 7 o'clock meeting.
The Mayor and City Council welcome you to the Peoria City Council meeting. As a courtesy to others, please silence all phones. If you would like to address an issue that is on the agenda, or if you would like to speak to the Council regarding a non-agenda item, please complete a speaker request form which can be found in the front lobby of the Peoria City Council chambers or in the tray to the left of the speaker's podium. Please place the completed speaker request form in the second tray to the left of the speaker's podium, labeled Request to Speak. All speakers will have 3 minutes to complete their comments. A countdown clock is easily visible on the left side of the wall behind the City Council dais. Only items listed on the agenda may be addressed by the Council. Since items presented as part of the speaker request have not been listed on the agenda, and due to the requirements of the open meeting laws, the Council will be unable to respond to items presented as part of the speaker's request. However, please be aware that your comments will be noted. The speaker's name will be called to speak at the appropriate time in the order that the forms were received. Thank you for your interest and participation in the Peoria City Council meeting.
Peoria City Council meeting will now come to order. Please rise for a moment of quiet reflection and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Finn.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk will please call the roll.
Mayor Carlett.
Here.
Vice Mayor Edwards.
Here.
Councilmember Binsbacher.
Here.
Councilmember Patena.
Here.
Councilmember Finn.
Here.
Councilmember Hunt.
Here.
Councilmember Leone.
Here.
Council Liaison Bowden.
Here.
And Council Liaison Camacho.
Here.
Good evening and welcome to the Peoria City Council meeting of December 1st, 2015. The first item on the agenda is presentation of certificates to board and commission members. I would like to ask Councilmember Bill Patena, who is the chair of the Council Subcommittee for Boards and Commissions, to meet me on the chamber floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Typically, you always hear me say the same thing. I'm going to change it up a little bit today. I was told today by the city clerk that we have 23 boards and commissions. On those boards and commissions, we have 138 people that volunteer and serve our city. That's kind of a big deal because they save our city a lot of money. Part of the boards and commissions, what we do is we select these people to be on these committees. And for an example, last meeting we reappointed William Burku, and we are reappointing Mitchell Bolnick as to the Board of Adjustment. We're reappointing Reed Weber to the Citizens Commission on Salaries for Elected Officials. We're reappointing William Schindler as a regular member to the Municipal Development Authority. We're appointing Jay Lusky as a regular member and reappointing Lee Strickman as a regular member to the term to expire December 2019 to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And we're reappointing John Albright as a regular member to the term to expire December 2019 to the Volunteer Firefighter Pension. And we are appointing Isaac Javier and Brighton Greathouse to the Youth Advisory Board. The people that are on this committee with me, it's myself, I chair it, and Vice Mayor Edwards is on it, along with Council Member Michael Finn. And what we try to do, each person has about when you fill out an application, you have about 5 or 6 different opportunities to serve on several boards. And what we try to do as a committee, as a subcommittee, is to find out what their first and second choices are, and then try to appoint them to that particular committee. That's where their level of expertise lies, and that's where they're able to help us out the most. And so far, we've been very successful in doing that, and I think it shows on how successful our boards and commissions operate. So tonight, I'm going to recognize a number of people that have been appointed to our boards and commissions, and when I call your name, would you please come down and accept your certificate? Dennis Grenier to the Building Board of Appeals. Brighton Greathouse to the Youth Advisory Board. And Isaac Javier to the Youth Advisory Board. Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda includes liquor licenses and other types of items that require a public hearing. If there is any member of the public present who wants to address a public hearing on the consent agenda, please complete a speaker request form and place it in the bin next to the speaker's podium. This item will be removed from the consent agenda and heard during the normal course of the regular agenda. Is there a member of the public who would like to address a public hearing on the consent agenda? Seeing none, Council, are there any items to be removed from consent? Do I have a motion?
A motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Please vote. Consent agenda passes unanimously. We will now move on to new business. Item 27R, establishment of an ad hoc citizens review committee.
Yes, Mayor Carlett and council members. Tammy Shreve of my office is the staff person who's been working on this with the mayor, and she has a brief presentation. Okay.
Good evening, Ms. Shreve. Shall I just go ahead? This is an item that is near and dear to my heart. I have brought this forward to the City Council because it has to do with the future of the city of Peoria. I believe that our residents are used to an exceptional quality of life, and that includes safe neighborhoods, beautiful parks, and our pristine open space. And we are at a crossroads in our city right now. Growth is ramping up again, and for those of you who were here before the economic downturn, you know how fast that can happen and how many people move into our city in rapid succession. It is time for us now to recognize that this growth is going to happen, and I believe that it is our job, incumbent upon those of us who sit here right now, to carefully plan and prepare for how we are going to deal with that growth as it comes to our city and who we are going to be after that growth happens. In other words, who are we going to be when we grow up? The city of Peoria is growing up right now, right before us, and it is our time to decide. And if we don't make these critical choices at this time, we will have lost our opportunity. I mean, it would be easy for us to sit back and let development happen and let there be lots and lots of rooftops and lots of strip shopping centers, and we will end up being, as many, many other cities are, looking just like them, as a matter of fact. You could close your eyes and not know the difference between Peoria and many other cities. Or we can make choices right now to be proactive and determine what we want our city to be like. Do we want it to have unique characteristics? Do we want the next generation to have the same kinds of quality of life that we enjoy right now? The same amenities, the same open space, the same parks and trails and hiking and biking opportunities? Is that what we want? Is that what we want for our children and our grandchildren? Or do we just want to let it happen as it will? I think that we don't just want to let it happen. I think we want to be proactive, but I think that we also want the input of our citizens. So we are here tonight to vote on putting together a mayor's ad hoc citizens committee who will be chosen from people all over the entire city, north, south, east, west, as well as people who have business interest here. And that group, I hope, will meet on a regular basis throughout the first of the year, maybe into the spring, and they will make choices about what they see, how they envision their city to grow, how they want the outcome to be, what they want for their children and their grandchildren. And so now is the time for us to decide if we are going to form a citizens committee who will make those decisions about the future of our city. So tonight, the council is going to vote on that, and I certainly hope that they will vote in favor of forming the Citizens Committee. And in advance of that vote, I just want to thank the citizens of Peoria for their willingness to participate in something that I think is going to be a game changer, an extremely important time in our city. So we're looking for participation from our very intelligent and thoughtful citizens. And there's going to be a number of ways that you can join this Citizens Committee if you would like. You can talk to your council member, but you can also go online to our website, peoriaaz.gov, and you can find a link there. There is going to be a way to go through our boards and commissions process that is already set up and in place, and that'll be guided through the city clerk's office. So, with that, is there any further discussion? Is there discussion from our council members or staff? Did I say everything there is to possibly say about this? Pretty much. All right, then. Is there a motion?
I'll second. I'll give it to her.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. And I'm happy to say that it is unanimous. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is call to the public for non-agenda items. I have received one request to speak. Mr. James Deibler, would you please proceed to the podium?
Hello, I am James Deibler. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I am going to school at Arizona State University. And we need to support small businesses in downtown Peoria because the customers need to come to spend their money. We need a grocery store in downtown Peoria to serve the residents with food, drinks, and household items. On the news, Valley Metro CEO Steve Banta has resigned over the Arizona Republic investigation about the spending habits, about $600 a night hotel rooms and bought lunch and expensive dinner at fancy restaurants. Such as Ruth's Chris Steakhouse in Portland, Oregon, a company executive in the public sector should not spend the taxpayers' money on restaurants and bars. Peoria doesn't need the light rail because the streets are narrow and don't have the taxpayer money to support it. Thanks for no time.
Thank you, Mr. Dibler.
I'm sorry I was having problems with my looking for files on my iPhone.
Understood. Thank you. Okay, we will now move on to reports from City Manager. Mr. Swenson.
Thank you, Mayor Carlett and council members. Just a couple of items under my report. The first is coming to you from our Public Works and Utilities Department, and it's some information regarding what will be the second of the solid waste collection days, the bulk trash collection days. The council will recall in the budget process, you asked that we put a second annual day in, so we now have a schedule out, and there's a public information campaign that's underway to alert citizens about that second opportunity for bulk waste in each of the neighborhoods across the city. The second item I have is an update on our community resource guide, and this was put together about 2 years ago, the first one, and our community development department has updated that now. It's a great resource guide for citizens, and I wanted to make sure that you were aware of it as well. The last two items are seasonal celebrations, and John Sefner, our community services director, is here to give you some information about those. John.
Thank you, Mr. Swenson. Good evening, Mayor and Council. And it is that time of year again where we come together throughout the season to enjoy our wonderful Peoria. The first of our events will be this Friday, and the City of Peoria encourages everyone to come out and enjoy our Old Town Holiday Festival. Take a stroll through Old Town Peoria and enjoy a bounty of holiday activities. The event will feature live entertainment, a visit from Santa, 20 tons of snow, a crafters market, kids zone, and a choral contest. The festival will take place at Peoria and Grand Avenues here in Osuna Park. Parking and admission are free. Some activities for a nominal fee. Food and beverages and concessions will be available for purchase as well. And that's this Friday, 5 to 9 o'clock. Snow is in the forecast for Old Town Peoria, and I encourage you to join our Peoria Youth Advisory Board as Vice Mayor Claus Edwards will be braving the ice-encrusted waters of our wintry, blistery dunk tank, and I'm sure the Vice Mayor will have more details in his closing remarks. And so again, snow is in the forecast. We encourage everybody to come down on Friday night this week. Another great City of Peoria affiliate event, Benevilla, will be hosting their 7th annual Festival of Cheer this on Saturday, December 12th, so just a couple of weeks away, at Peoria's Centennial Plaza and Park. The annual Benevilla Festival of Cheer focuses on celebrating holidays, diversity, and cultures from around the world. The Festival of Cheer is designed to bring together all aspects of the community, both residents and businesses, to learn, share, and have holiday fun. Countries and cultures will be demonstrated throughout different stations set up throughout the park. Several unique vendors will be on site for everyone's shopping delight. We invite you to join us. The Festival of Cheer is free, with activities, holiday traditions from around the world, entertainment, and more. And I also know that the snow is on the forecast for December 12th. 20 tons of snow will be there for the kids to play. Again, that's December 12th, Centennial Plaza, right behind City Hall. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mayor, Council.
All we need is a circulator for those two events, huh? All right, we're going to now move on to reports from City Council. Youth Council Liaison Bowden.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to extend a special welcome from the Youth Advisory Board to Brighton and Isaac. We're excited for you guys to join us and for the insight that you'll bring into our meetings. And we are also excited for the Holiday Festival. We encourage you all to come out. The dunk tank should be very fun and amusing. We are grateful to Vice Mayor Edwards for volunteering his time and so much more. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Binsbacher.
Thank you, Mayor. I am thrilled about the Citizens Committee. I think that's fantastic, and we are truly here to serve the public, to serve our citizens, in what better way but than to make them part of the process. I'm very proud of that. Also, I'm very proud of partnering with Peoria Fire in raising awareness about the Arizona Safe Baby Haven law. Working with the Safe Baby Haven organization, we have always been in support of this law, of course, here in Arizona and certainly in Peoria. But on the 18th of this month, we actually placed our first sign out at Station 197, which is the West Wing location, and we are going to be putting those signs at all of our fire stations and all of our trucks in an effort to raise awareness about this law. For those of you that don't know, it allows for a safe place for mothers, desperate mothers that feel they can't care for their newborns, to have a safe place to put them without legal repercussions within the first 72 hours of birth. So it absolutely saves newborn lives, and I'm thrilled to have been part of that. Also, on the 20th, attended ASU's W.P. Carey School of Business's Spirit of Entrepreneurship Awards, Spirit of Enterprise Awards, rather, and it recognizes businesses in the state of Arizona for their entrepreneurship. And I was very, very proud to be there and witness two of our very own Peoria businesses being recognized for outstanding entrepreneurship. And they were Tier Tactical and Potter House Apothecary and Wellness right here in Peoria. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Patena.
Thank you, Mayor. Originally, I didn't have anything that I was going to talk about, but then I found something. So I already shared this earlier this evening with Bill Mattingly, but on my way to City Hall today, I witnessed something that I thought was pretty interesting. They were picking up the garbage in my neighborhood at the time, and we have two citizens that are both husband and wife are physically impaired, and I watched the man struggling with his walker to get the garbage containers out to the curb. And what happened was the driver stopped his vehicle, got out of it, went over to the man and helped him take his garbage container and his recycling bin to the curb. Shook his hand, spent a few minutes with him, talking with him, and then got back into his truck and went to the next house. I think that this is something that, for our city staff who have contact with our citizens, this is probably a daily occurrence. This is just the way our city staff operates, and I'm really very proud of that. Today, this was just something that I happened to witness that I thought was, just a way our city staff offers things to its citizens and does extra special things. And so, I remember many years ago when I was an employee here, I remember telling my boss at the time, J.P. Delamontagne, I said to him, JP, I have a long work history, and I said, but I can tell you that working in the city of Peoria, these are some of the most caring and most hardworking people that I've ever been associated with, and I believe that rings true today. So I always want to take the opportunity to thank our staff for all your hard work that you do and all the good things that you do for our citizens. So thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I want to congratulate you as well on the Citizens Committee. This is a huge endeavor for the city, but I think it's in great hands. You in charge with residents of Peoria having a buy-in. This is great news, and I just hope that all the residents understand the importance of what we've just accomplished here. This gives you an opportunity to, like the mayor said, set the future of Peoria. So I encourage you to email us, write us, call us if you're interested in joining one of these committees. It's really important for us to get your feedback. So again, I want to thank you on that. And then secondly, to talk about the polar experience here. Yes, I'll be dressed as Santa Claus in a dunk tank, and I'm encouraging anybody that wants to take a whack at a city official to come on out, and for $1 you get 2 balls to throw at me. And Carl, I'm going to make the offer to city employees as well. This is for the Youth Advisory Group, and this is important to me as well as the rest of the council to support our young leaders. And so I just encourage everybody to come out and have a great time and get a chance to throw a ball at me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Finn?
You know I used to be a pitcher, right? Okay, I got a lot of singles in my pocket, too. I'm not lying. Just a couple things. I don't want to belabor it, but I want to congratulate you as well. It's a great committee and a great thing that we're doing, so thank you so much for leading that. And the only other thing is congratulations to Centennial Coyotes, who brought the Division I football championship to the West Side for the first time in 33 years, I think. I must have been in kindergarten or something about that time, but probably about kindergarten. Yeah, so 33 years they brought it home, so congratulations to them. That's all I got.
Yeah, woohoo. Councilmember Hunt?
Yesterday, it was my extreme honor to receive, on behalf of the city, antique quilt made by one of our local pioneer ladies here in the city, Mrs. Viola Donahue. She's 94 years old, and it took her a year and a half of hand stitching, 12 hours a day, 365 days, plus another 6 months, to create this quilt. It is beyond beautiful. She won many, many awards, and she wants the city of Peoria to have this quilt and to keep it on into forever. You can see this quilt. We're placing it, first of all, in the lobby of Theater Works, our Theater for the Performing Arts, and it seems so appropriate because the opening, the show that's opening Saturday night is called The Quilt Maker's Gift. It's a beautiful Christmas story for young and old. It's based on a children's book. And so Viola will be there Saturday night. We've invited her, and we'll introduce her on stage. And so if you don't have your tickets yet, that's a great night to come, although the quilt will be there for probably all of December and January. So just be sure and come out, support your local theater, bring your kids, get in that holiday spirit. Kind of early, except I guess we're starting our Christmas spirit the 5th, but the 6th is still pretty early, so thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Leone?
Yes, thank you. Just want to let you know that on last Saturday at Country Meadows Park at the Park Fest, it was a great turnout. We had a lot of vendors there. There was hot dogs, soda, popcorn, water given out. And the most important thing was that they had a Disney movie. Anytime you have a movie for the kids, they're going to be there. And they were there in droves. It was just great. I want to thank the police department for being there with their bicycle rodeo, and also the fire department that was there, that was showing off their trucks. It's just a great event, and we have it every year, and I hope next year that we'll even get more people. I want to thank Bridget for being there. She came all the way in from Vicentia, which is quite a drive. So I just want to thank her again, and Park Fest is something that all the parks in Peoria should have. I also want to mention one other thing, that every Saturday morning for 6 months from 9 to 2 at Park West, they have a farmer's market, and they have a lot of vendors there, and they have the food trucks there. So if you never came, come on down and enjoy yourself, and I guarantee you, you'll be coming back every weekend. Thank you. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless America.
Thank you. Youth Council Liaison Camacho.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Congratulations, Brighton, and congratulations, Isaac. We look forward to seeing you on the advisory board. And speaking of the advisory board, we have finally completed the Youth Bill of Rights, which is a project that has been going on for a long time, and we are very happy and proud of the document that we have completed. And thank you, Vice Mayor Edwards, for the for volunteering yourself for the dunk tank on our behalf. That is much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. And you know what? We would love to have you bring the Youth Bill of Rights here to the next council meeting and read them for us. I think a lot of people would be interested in that. That's great. Thank you. There being no further business, we are adjourned.